All right, well, we'll move on to cereals. I thought it was just worth touching on the cereals because I think these are playing an ever-increasing role on farm, and it's an interesting time of year for cereals as we drive around the place. We've had tremendous results on the cereals, I guess, particularly in the Hunter, but also as co-plantings on the coast, where we've used them at the front end in combination with ryegrass and our other winter feeds to increase bulk early in the season. I think it's gaining increased prominence. We've had a few issues, I guess, in some of the soils that got severely waterlogged where we may have rotted out some of those cereals. But certainly on the better draining soils on the coast, the addition of some of the cereals as co-planting has given people a lot more early feed where that's been done. Out in the Hunter, I guess we've got more examples like the two photos here where they've been used as sole crops. And I guess we're increasingly learning more and more about the space here where these are being applied in the dairy situation. Firstly, the grazing management of the cereals has been quite important with respect to maintaining quality and optimising yield. And again, we use a pretty simple sort of rule of thumb when grazing cereals, is that we operate on the gumboot to ankle rule if we want to keep them in the rotation. We let them graze, so grow to the height of the gumboot, and then we graze that down to the ankle. And if you graze your cereals at that gumboot to ankle level, okay, in that rotation, we are likely to get 3 to 5 rotations out of most of these. I guess the thing that's been a little bit challenging this year has been some of the issues we've seen with disease in some of the cereals, and I guess this is a couple of photos here from the same farm and paddocks that were side by side. The one up on top is a paddock of DS Bennett wheat in the Hunter Valley. The one below is a paddock of maybe barley, both taken on the same day on the same property. And we certainly have a few issues in this situation with the wheat. And it's been interesting because subsequent to us following this up, which I'd like to thank the guys at Local Land Services for the support here, and Pete may want to have Dave some comments shortly. But we have certainly detected rust in this paddock. But it was interesting when we took the photo of the paddock with the diseased wheat, we got 10 different opinions from 10 different people as to what the problem was. Okay, and I think that's a real big challenge that we're looking at around the place. Is that had said farmer taken advice from option one, it could have been out there spraying or doing completely the wrong treatment without actually getting an accurate diagnosis of what was going on. As it turned out, the condition here was diagnosed. It was stripe rust. There are some treatment options available. There are some prevention options available, which are really important for us to look at. But we've also done with a little bit of additional research. And I was looking at one of the GRDC disease updates the other day. Apparently, we actually now have in this Bennett wheat, it's got its own biotype of stripe rust, which we're seeing a lot of this year. So, look, I guess Pete and Dave both assisted with the collection here, and Kyle was obviously seeing a bit of this out in the field. Did you guys want to make some comments on the disease and some of the cereals and where we need to go?
Yeah, look, from my experience with most of these wheat varieties and that, you get a variety either breaks down and you just look for a resistant variety. That's your main thing. And sometimes, one will just get stripe rust and it'll be bad for a year, but you shift your variety and you're out of it. We don't really want to be going down that track. There is fungicides. There's a lot of timing, a lot of withholding period issues, and there's a lot of varieties out there. So that's where I would first go. Josh is just making a comment too that if you do graze it off, it'll come back fresh. It's it's a lot of it gets spread by water and conditions. So ideal conditions, you get it spread around the crop, but if it's grazed off and come back, it could come back, a lot less. So, so that's the sorts of things I'd be looking at. We did send it off to EMAI and they came back with stripe rust. Looking at that, at the leaves there, it's not a really bad stripe rust reaction on that variety. I've seen a lot worse in the past, but as I say, just probably have to think about another variety for next year. But Kyle, you might have some other info, Josh.
Yeah, I think big things just management. As soon as you start seeing an issue, it's only going to get worse. So try and get into it, and as Josh said, it will come back fresher after you graze or remove that material. A bit of management, if you do see it coming, there are options, but as Pete said, there are issues with holdings, with fungicides and things like that. And if it's too late, they're not going to work. Basically, it needs to be done early when you notice it. So, sometimes going in and grazing that is the best solution, I guess.
Yep. Look, I think they're all really useful comments, aren't they? And I guess what we know, the diagnosis is important. It's given us an indication this is a risk. People have got increasing knowledge that it is a risk. And interestingly, under the same growing conditions, we've got an example below of the Moby barley, which isn't actually being affected at all. There's probably some options if people want to persist with, these varieties, which certainly we should be looking at. Firstly is we make sure that we do the seeds probably with some fungicide treatment is going to be of assistance. And again, as Kyle said, early recognition if you do have a problem and dealing with it early in the season is really, really important. Again, they also talk with rust management is minimising the risk of what they call the green bridge, okay, which is sort of the continual cropping in the same paddock month in, month out. If there's no actual break in crop, now this went straight in the back of summer grasses. And again, while the rust may not have been visible on those summer grasses, it certainly could be present in there in small amounts, and it allows it to inoculate these crops as they come through later on. So look, I think lots there in the cereals. I think they are giving us some tremendous options. With respect to timing on what we should be doing with them now, we've had certainly some clients have taken the crops before they've actually started to get stem elongation and throw up the boot and the seed as a cut of early silage. We'd be pretty confident in that situation, particularly under irrigation or good profile, of getting a second cut later in the season. However, if we're starting to see these crops go into booting, we are probably getting it to the point where we're unlikely to get really, really good regrowth. And there may be some timing issues there that people want to think about with respect to rolling into the next crop. Kyle, you had a few comments about that in the dryland space.
Yeah, in terms of continuing forward, I guess, making yourself aware, knowing where your cereals are pulling up, and if they are, turning into half a stand, consider taking them out. A lot of winter wheats are sitting pretty well. Obviously, oats and barleys are probably running a little bit quicker race at the moment. I guess looking into going forward with other options for your dry cows and heifers and things like that, I guess is what we're looking at. So things like brassicas, millet options are coming around very quickly. And that, or chicory and brassica options to go in for quick feed.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great. Did any of the group have any other comments on the cereal side of things? I think that what we're seeing, I guess, is some reasonably low cost crops to establish, and I guess in the hunter, we've got a lot of dry land there that doesn't do a lot of the time, particularly in winter. This year we've had some good opportunities to make a fair bit out of it, but I think in many years there's probably more opportunities to do more with our dry land, particularly if we look at a bit of smart fallowing over summer, which is obviously the other way to utilise summer moisture if we do see it, is to actually fallow that moisture over summer. Tony, you may have some comments on that, Tony Burnett, based on some of your previous experiences and how successful that can be in the hunter in the dry land areas.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. I was just sending Liz a message to say I've got to duck off to my next meeting, but so great timing. Yeah, look, banking that moisture is especially over the summer, and I reckon that this year, looking at the forecast, is probably going to be a really good opportunity. So we might even see that if the real positiveness out of this forecast, we might even see a full profile of moisture in the next few weeks. So there's definitely some opportunities there for a bit of dryland stuff. So yeah.
Yep. Look, I think that's great, and again, a lot of this is about planning, okay? Because sometimes we really need to understand why we're putting crops in, and it needs to have a defined role as to where it may sit in your business down the track. we can grow a whole heap of low quality rubbish over summer if we're not careful. And I guess, you know, being very targeted with what you grow from now on in summer to say, well, I'm chasing a quality feed because low quality stuff's cheap as chips. So if I'm going to do something in summer, I've got to have a plan to actually bale it or harvest it as a high quality forage, or to graze it. Because the third opportunity we have with dryland moisture, particularly further inland, is to hold that moisture under the soil. Those soils will accumulate moisture. And rather than race into summer crop, your other option there might be going in late February, early March on a full profile with one of the warm season oats, for example, that'll handle a warmer soil temp, okay, and getting some early winter feed going in next year. So just because we have the moisture now doesn't mean we have to use it now. Really thinking about how your whole farm plan sits and when you're going to utilise that feed, when is feed most valuable to you. You know, on most farms I'd go to, I'd much rather see another 50, 80, 100 acres of high quality dryland feed going into winter than wondering what the hell I'm going to do with another 1,000 tonne of dry matter of sorghum silage that, you know, got away from us. So, you know, being really targeted with what you do with that dryland, I think, is absolutely critical as we move forward. All right. Any other questions on the cereals?
Yeah, look, I think the wheat and the rust issue has certainly been a real problem for us in the last few weeks. Like we got the silage chopper in early August, and we were hoping for another pretty good silage cut this month, but it's just not going to justify getting the silage chopper in because of having to cut these paddocks early due to the rust. So it's it's certainly a challenge for us going forward as far as trying to find some disease rust resistance in a wheat variety, because it's this is the first year we've planted a lot of wheat. We did probably 20 hectares last year, and it worked extremely well and got some really good quality high quality feed off it. But this year the rust has certainly been a bit of a curveball in it. So.
Yeah, okay. So certainly impact on farm, Adam, and something you're going to have to integrate into your decision making next autumn or next summer for autumn.
Yeah, that's it. And look, it's it's been the difference between getting a silage chopper in and getting some lower cost silage away to, look, we're now having to round bale it, which is in our system it's sort of certainly not ideal having a lot of round bales, but it is what it is. So
It's what it is. No, that's fine. Excellent. And what's your plan after the crop comes out, Adam?
Corn. So we'll go fairly early corn silage this year, just because our stores are basically empty. Just trying to build up some reserve and some carryover. So.
Excellent.